Well, hello and welcome to everyone, and welcome to Come and Discuss Spurs. My name is Andreas. I'm in Denmark, and if I can ask Stuart, would you like to introduce yourself and where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm Stuart, and I am another one of those Spurs fans who is a long way from home. I am just outside Paris, France.
And James?
Nice. I'm in London, so.
Just one.
Yeah, I am local, sort of. It takes me ages to get to the ground, but it shouldn't be, because it probably almost takes me as long to walk as it does to get a bus.
But that is London for you, though.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is going to take you bloody ages to get into the ground for the next game. So.
And Matt?
Yeah, I'm Matt, and I am in Marseille. And yeah, it takes me a bit longer to get to the stadium. But on the other hand, I guess it feels an odd leveler because we all feel like we're more or less the same distance at this point, don't we? Really?
Yeah.
No.
And now I'm the scholar?
Yeah, it's a dish. I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa. Same time zone almost, but a longer distance, about an 11-hour flight. But
I mean, James,
yeah.
James the odd one out for the time zone here.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah,
only one.
Yeah.
Only one on British time zone.
Yeah, it's true. It's a nice balmy 8 o'clock, kind of balmy in London terms, of course, being like 10 degrees.
Wow.
So on topic for tonight, we have I've set up a few topics to discuss. One is fans in the stadium. One in both without fans in the stadium like we have right now, but also a bit of a cultural difference in when they are in the stadium, how best to create an atmosphere, and what's the way to support your football team. I put down Gareth Bale because, being Spurs fans, we cannot just not discuss Gareth Bale. And then playing Harry Kane through injury in the Nations League. I might have a comment about the game last night. And then maybe we should talk about the West Ham game on Sunday. So, to start off with a bit of a preface to the fans in the stadium. With COVID-19, we don't have fans in the stadium. Here in Denmark, we are now trying to get more people into stadium so we can have like 4,000 or 5,000, which is not unusual to have in the grounds. And hopefully they will approve those measures that can actually allow us to do that. I don't know. I'm not following either South African, English, or French politics and safeguards in terms of coronavirus. How are people handling football where you're sitting?
Well, here in France, last night they declared that we are in a state of emergency, which I feel we've been in a state of emergency since March, really. It's never really returned to normal since the original lockdown. But they've actually brought in a curfew now. We're no longer in a lockdown. What we now have is a curfew. So between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. in 9 cities in France, you cannot leave. You have to be in your home and you cannot leave. So there's that. But in terms of the football, as far as I understand, there's still no supporters in the stadiums for most games. But for the game last night, France against Croatia, there were actually some fans in the stadium. And they were apparently all together and jumping around arm in arm and probably spreading COVID. So I don't think we're going to be having too many more fans in the stadium for a little bit of time. This is the issue. You know, they can put as many things as they like in place, but if people don't follow them, you know, it's still going to go wrong.
So can I ask, what were they supposed to be doing?
They're supposed to be staying 1.5 meters apart.
And they all just went...
And they just went like that, yeah.
We've had those issues in Denmark as well, where we have allowed both 500 people in one area. That's our limit to, if you're sitting down and facing the same way, then you can be 500 people in the same place. Mm-hmm. What then they've made several places in the stadium that can contain 500 people. That's the way they've done football. And we haven't had any issues apart from a couple of games where people couldn't keep apart because they were trying to create the atmosphere that they know from pre-COVID.
So have you got strong social distancing in Denmark?
Well, we're Scandinavian, so yes.
Yeah. So does that carry on over to your players abroad? Because I mean, Christian Eriksen is getting nowhere near the Inter team right now. I built that one up for like 30 seconds. That's right.
But it's interesting how what culture does, right? Because you can say how do the French deal with social distancing? I mean, I can mainly speak of Marseille, that it doesn't work, right? So if you ask people to follow rules in Marseille, no chance. Whereas in Scandinavia, you've got a hope, right? You can ask people to obey some rules and try and be a bit sensible, and it's possible.
We Sweden, because apparently
Sweden,
it doesn't matter.
I feel your pain, Matt. It's the same here. I think we had probably the hardest lockdown in the entire world. We were movement was prohibited except for food, ban on alcohol, zero mingling outside of your home. It was zero for at least 3 months. I had to have a special permit to do work, and that was only essential services. And I do high voltage work, so I had a special permit because it's related to the infrastructure. And then they were quite clear, and then I don't know who smoked what, but they kept the lockdown and then allowed minibus taxis to travel, and you get 15 people in a taxi. So it didn't make sense, but still no people allowed in the stadium. And we have curfews for alcohol now, so you can buy from Monday to Thursday, but not through the weekend, which is also a bit strange because you kind of think that you don't want people to drink in the week and miss work now that you can go back to work. So it's a bit confusing to a lot of people, and then people don't obey as well. Of course, our level of education for the general population is lower than in Europe, so it's harder to understand. And then the living conditions are in a lot of the shanty towns, they don't even have running water. So how can you wash, and how can you maintain hygiene? And that is still the unskilled labor force for the country. But all said and done, the numbers are down, testing's up, and the numbers are down. So that's a good sign. But I'd say a month ago, we were having 11,000 new infections a day, and we are down to about 1,000 now. So I expect from next week that our lockdown would be eased even longer. But in terms of sport, no fans in the stadium. They're working in bubbles.
We're at 27,000 a day or something in France at the moment.
Wow.
So, but
Is
I mean,
they
never banned alcohol. I mean, it's a very good reason for that. You do not separate a French man and his red wine. So
we have
the thing was, yeah. Sorry. The thing here was that alcohol and related to so many incidents that the hospitals were full from people doing stupid stuff, car accidents and brawls and things like that. So they banned the alcohol to create space in the hospital wards, and that made a huge difference. We never ran out of beds during the peak. So yeah, but then you got gangs looting bottle stores that were closed and things like that. So it's rough out here. It's different, but yeah, I think it's gonna change soon. So we're hoping everything stays on the right track.
Given the fact that we've all had various degrees of lockdowns since about March, it's high time we had one of these chats, actually, really, don't you think?
Yeah.
Everyone under the sun has been having these video chats, posting and doing this, but somehow I don't know how that happened, actually.
Well, we didn't have any football to talk about for a very long time, so.
Yeah.
James, how are things in London?
Well, it's interesting talking about the emergency departments because I desperately want to call them casualty doctors, but I hate that. So I shouldn't call them casualty doctors because casualty is an outdated term. And A&E, anyway, the doctors in A&E were all very, very worried about the opening of the pubs, because they thought exactly the same thing, that essentially they managed to cope with COVID when they were empty, because people weren't, as one of them said to me, they're not going out and tombstoning, so we don't have to clear up after that. So that's kind of what informs what's going on at the moment, which is that we haven't got to 27,000 a day. We're kind of in about 17 to 18,000, I think it's probably heading towards. So it's kind of creeping up, not as quickly as everybody sort of imagined it would, but it's still going up, and the hospitals are still up. So it's hard to see. There's going to be a debate on Monday, November the 9th, after there was one of those petitions. So once you get a petition with more than 100,000 signatures on it, then you can submit that to Parliament, and the MPs are obliged to debate it. But that doesn't mean they're actually going to do anything. Anyway, so there have been some test things. I know that I think it was Brighton. Was it Brighton? Somebody did. Yeah, it was Brighton, Chelsea in August, and that seemed to go all right. It's hard to. It's just there does seem to be a big sort of feeling that, in Liverpool, for example, the other night they shut the pubs, and the night they shut the pubs, there was a big party in the street. And you must have seen this stuff on.
I saw that on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. The people playing cricket, which I think is a good thing. So we should encourage that. If lockdown's kind of done anything for the UK, it's got people playing late night cricket on the street with a roaring crowd. So I think.
Well, cricket is the perfect COVID-19 sport, isn't it? I mean, how often do you see anyone within 2 meters of each other in cricket? So
pretty much, yeah, exactly. So
you got like the batsman and the gloves guy. I can't remember his name. It's been ages since I played cricket. Wicket keeper. There you go. He can wear a mask
unless they're putting saliva on the ball to make it swing.
Exactly. But so I mean I would say that I would be surprised if we had fans in stadiums this year, but it is possible. It's possible that you could. I can imagine the government doing it as a SOP. The thing is that there's a, you can go hunting, you can't go to a football match. You can go to the opera, or you can go to the theatre, but you can't go to a football match. So there's a certain sort of association between those two things. Perhaps Boris Johnson doesn't go to the football very often.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. We had a similar thing. They closed the game parks, which is like the biggest tourism attraction in South Africa. But people were allowed to travel in minibus taxis, whereas in a game park, you're in a safari in an open vehicle with limited amount of people. And it really didn't make sense. But I guess this is to be expected. Certain decisions get made before others, but priorities are wrong, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very coherent over here. It does feel a bit like they're not trying to navigate the virus, they're trying to navigate the political parties.
Yeah,
and the economy.
Yep. I think we just all agreed right there, because that's the same feeling we got over here as well. But I'm also giving the benefit of the doubt. I think the Danish government is trying to restrict as little as possible, which means they are doing a lot of small things instead of a complete lockdown. A complete lockdown would be probably even better at containing the virus, but because they want to keep as much open as possible, they will institute curfews and dissuade people from drinking and stopping pirate parties, which is something I've never thought I'd actually be interested in, but pirate parties sound pretty awesome.
You mean like
I mean, pirate parties are basically a thing that people are having parties, like in Liverpool, though they're having parties where they're gathering a lot of people together, but they're after curfew and they don't have a license and so on. They're actually being called pirate parties.
And they're dressing up as Vikings? Please tell me that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That'd be fantastic.
I am not aware, but there surely must be.
I thought the pirate party would be people dressed up as Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
I have heard of COVID positive parties, so you can only go to it if you have COVID currently.
Immune, apparently, right?
Wow.
So, but
I don't know about that. There's been a few people that I know that have had it twice.
Yeah,
So
it was in the news.
I'm not so sure of that anymore. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I've been trying to follow the data a little bit, as you'd expect. I mean, and I think that I mean, this is becoming a COVID-19 chat, but anyway.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
At some point, we'll get back to the football.
I'll try and keep it short. Oh, hello there. Hello, Benjamin.
Oh, more Danes.
And a cat.
Hello, Benjamin.
So as I was saying,
you're connecting to audio.
okay. So
that video feed really needs some heavy metal music going with it. Look at it! Wow.
But yeah, so I mean, it's interesting to compare places like Denmark, and Sweden in particular have been quite high profile. There's been quite taking a slow and steady approach, where the rest of us are quite cyclical, aren't we? We're sort of, full on lockdown, trying to kill the spread, and then it starts to build up and up. But I think that, I mean, we should all be very careful about the situation, but I really think the situation now is a far cry from how it was back in March, April, at least the stats that I keep looking at, which are France, the UK, and the US. Because if you look at the case numbers, it's quite a misleading thing to look at. Because if you look at the case stats, the numbers are exploding worse than ever, but that's partly because we're testing. And it's become a little bit of a political wrestling match or whatever, talking about case numbers, and it becomes a bit of a debate. But I think there's an element of truth in it. Sadly, the most rock solid stat to look at is the death rate, and the death rate is the slope is high. Things are that needs to be brought under control clearly, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was.
I think the other thing.
Do you think there's anything to be said for sanitized environments versus unsanitized environments? So I'm talking about New York, like even Johannesburg. Do you think people in those areas have higher immunity because the environment's so unsanitized previously?
There's been a lot of talk in the last day about how there's no such thing as herd immunity without a vaccine. And I think that this is something that probably should have been discussed more like February, March, when it was becoming a hot topic. This idea, we're very far from that. I think if you look at the stats, I tried to do an estimate of the stats of if we didn't do lockdown, where we would be. And I mean, the numbers are quite scary. So I think, some sort of control is absolutely necessary for the time being until we have a vaccine.
The issue with the numbers is entirely to do with the health service. It's just, do we have hospitals that can treat somebody who has a heart attack or breaks their leg or has an aneurysm or whatever? And in Liverpool at the moment, the Royal Liverpool Hospital has something like 90% of its beds are full. So there's not much space for them. That's a really bad hotspot.
I think that's the thing. It's the number of available beds that are left. And in France, we're at the same number of beds taken for COVID as we were before the first lockdown.
Yeah. So that's exactly the thing. As you say, Matt, it's absolutely right. You can't look at cases and make a direct comparison. What cases do is they show you what's going to happen to hospitalizations in a couple of weeks, and hospitalizations show you what's going to happen to deaths in a couple of weeks. So the fact that it's the rate of change which is the important thing, not the absolute number. So in the UK, the rate of change at the height of the pandemic was the numbers were doubling every 3 days. Now they're doubling roughly every fortnight. So the fact that it's roughly 4 times as slow means that it's not as bad, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to get there unless something happens. So
France seems to have
going back to football. That's why, even though I think football is safe, because indoors, the point about you saying that, is there a difference in the cities and everything else? All the people I've spoken to about this say that the transmission from surfaces that we thought was a really big possibility back in March and April, that does not seem to lead to transmission of the virus in the same way it doesn't survive very well on hard surfaces. It's much more about the transmission of droplets in the air and you breathing or coming into contact with them. And so that's the issue. So being outside, in theory, there's no good reason why football, even I'd say, you know, if you have a person every 2 seats, then yeah, that should probably do the trick.
If people respect it, and that's the challenge, right?
Yeah,
Getting people to respect it.
That's the one we've had. So to turn it away from COVID-19 and let's start dreaming of a day where we fans can be in the stadium, either in France, South Africa, Denmark, or perhaps England. Then one of the things I'm actually it was a question I'd like to ask, and I'm extremely pleased with the amount of different placements you all have, because I come from Denmark, and I've been part of a group that was in charge. We were that's what we thought we were in anyway, in charge of creating atmosphere at the stadium, because no one, if no one took any, I can't speak English right now. If someone didn't take the initiative, then no one would. If so, we had to have some people who would actually start singing songs, and in order to get other people going along. And I was actually during that time, one of our biggest moments of success was when we could sing all game, even though they were nonsense songs. And I thought, well, a good atmosphere would still be a lot of cholo, as we sing a lot, or le ole, or ali ali, or whatever. Just a lot of those. And then if you did it for 90 minutes straight, you'd create a good atmosphere. Then I went to watch Spurs Dortmund in the Champions League, and Dortmund was singing 90 minutes of the game. And I heard someone on the way from the stadium saying, well, they were just singing nonsense. So that wasn't proper atmosphere. The proper atmosphere was something else and something different. That the proper songs, the songs that we know from the English stadiums, were the proper atmosphere as part instead of the 90 minutes of singing. And Stuart, we touched a little bit on it. Would you start us off again with this one?
Yeah, I think, you know, first of all, it was like people saying, oh, they weren't singing real songs, they were singing nonsense songs. They were probably singing in German. So, you know, that might be a thing. It's like when I go to a French stadium, they sing in French, you know. But the first time I went, I was like, what on earth is it? I don't know this song. This is rubbish. And then after a little bit, it's like, okay, if like they're singing in French, if you're not jumping, you're not René, you know, you're not a Rennes fan. Or as they sing in Paris, if you're not jumping, you're not a Paris fan. If they sing in Saint Etienne, if you're not jumping, you know, I mean, the quality of songs is not particularly inventive, I'll be honest. It's one of the things that I do kind of miss from the UK is, you know, each club has their own songs. You know, sometimes, yes, they'll kind of go over like the Eric Cantona, Glenn Hoddle, you know, Teddy Sheringham type songs. But the thing that I kind of dislike about French football is a lot of the time you'll have someone at the front of the stand with a megaphone and he will start singing. He will basically say what the song is going to be, you know. Whereas when I've been to White Hart Lane, I haven't been to many clubs in the UK. I've been to Aston Villa, been to White Hart Lane, been a couple of others. But the songs start in different parts of the stadium. Yeah, different parts of the stand. So somebody will start singing one song over here, and people that group will join in. Suddenly, that ripples throughout the crowd, and everybody joins in. It's organic. It's a beautiful thing. Where instead of you got one person at the front with a megaphone going, "Now we're going to sing this song. If you're not jumping, you're not René." You know, it just seems a little bit manufactured to me. I think one of the things with Germany is Germany does have that kind of organics, that feel to it. So, you know, but French football can be really quite manufactured in a way.
Yeah, I've seen that at low M, and it's not just that there's a person standing at the front, it's that they've got like a structure and a high seat and a pedestal, and then it's sort of not just fake because the fans have put someone forward to try and cheerlead them, but the club has organised it, and it does feel quite fake, I must say.
We've got a different challenge. We've got 11 different languages in South Africa. So, it depends what language you speak, and then it differs from each city, each province, what are the majority in that. And a lot of the home games are played in Johannesburg anyway. If it's a big club coming outside of one of the big city centers, they might play Johannesburg or Durban often. And then Durban's Zulu speaking and Johannesburg's not. It's a mixture of everything. So it's even more complicated, but it's also very spontaneous and I would say audio visual. So it's accompanied with a lot of dance, a lot of dance and very church-based roots, I would say.
Do they
So
still
it's
use
also an experience.
vuvuzelas down there?
Some do, but like most of the old proper clubs, they don't. That was something that caught on just before the World Cup. The vuvuzelas were used spontaneously, like you would get your ringleader leading it in France, but not by one person. You know, they would use it as a musical instrument as part of the chant. But then it just caught on and became its own phenomenon. But,
I still have a vuvuzela from 2010.
Oh gosh.
Did you keep it in the cupboard?
Yeah.
You don't
The
have it to
beer
hand,
funnel now, Andreas. It's now a beer funnel, Andreas.
I think you should get it out to the end of every discussion or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
A quick
yeah.
toot just to bring it to a close. I think it'll really shut down any discussion very nicely.
For the opening game of the 2010 World Cup, I took Tolive with us. He's also a member of CADS, the Chicken. And it was him and his fiancée. They weren't married yet, and they were doing a world tour. And I took him to the kickoff concert the night before and the opening game. And that was, he says, it was a completely different experience from anything he's experienced elsewhere in Europe. But it was a lot of dance, a lot of songs. It was a great atmosphere, a great time that I haven't seen before that or since. So hopefully we get more of those. It's the only way we're going to qualify for a World Cup anyway. We host. So,
I'll be honest, I don't think I could ever compare going to a football game with a church-going experience. So, certainly not with some of the people that have been stood around me at matches anyway. So
yeah.
That includes Matt.
I have been in a funeral mood going from a football game, but I'm not sure that's quite the same.
It's true. We've had some of those dark days. I'm so happy to be enjoying watching us play again. There's hope. There's, even if we're terrible, that we've got players that can make things out of nothing and give you a moment. And that's a nice feeling to have again. It was surreal watching the Spurs United game, seeing how we came back. I couldn't believe it was happening to us. Does this happen to Spurs supporters? We don't have days like that too often. So that was fantastic.
Yeah,
only
but
for
be honest,
to go and upstairs.
Even when we scored 5 goals, you were still thinking, if they score 1,
Yeah.
trouble here, aren't we?
But so
we scarred for life.
It's been pretty bad recently, though, right, Guy? I mean,
Yeah.
it's been like a wake. It's terrible. No, but I mean, even when the stadiums actually had people in them, I mean, we have to be careful, right? Because I don't know if any CADs are actually going to watch this, but those that go to the games regularly or were, but the atmosphere is quite quiet now, isn't it? Right? There's a lot of, well, I say, you know what I mean by now, right?
Pre-COVID, yeah.
But I mean, it's almost like there's a more of a sense of expectation from the fans, and so there's much less, unless it's a special game, it's not really continual or even semi. You know, typically it's quiet, I would say.
Yeah, I actually I don't think it's necessarily a expectation or any sort of that kind of deal. It could also just be the fact that the what was a season and a half, 2 seasons at Wembley, and now a new bigger stadium, a lot of new season ticket holders, and a lot of dare I say it, tourists are getting into the stadium, which means that if for a song to catch on organically as they used to do at White Hart Lane, you had to have like 4 or 5 people willing to sing along nearby, probably. And those people are probably going to be more spread out now because of they are not the usual season ticket holders. So it might just be the fact that you have so many new people in the stadium trying to learn how how to sing songs and how to do things organically. How do things work in the stands?
So,
I don't
do you have
think so. The West Stand was always the tourist stand, and it was always the place, you know. But the Park Lane and the Shelf are like there's. I mean, I have to say I don't recognise this not singing stuff, to be honest. Although, you know, clearly I can't remember, maybe because it's been such a long time. But, yeah, honestly, it doesn't feel as if that was. It felt as if there was no singing. If it was quiet, it was because it reflected the performance on the pitch.
Yeah,
and there wasn't a lot to necessarily get excited about. And you know, there it is reactive. And yeah, I know what you mean about the idea of getting people, you know, getting some sort of orchestrated thing going. But I can't remember a game when you haven't had, you know, the We Are the Park Lane and We're the Shelf Side kind of thing going as just as you know, it always happens in the first 10 minutes. You always get, you know, I think especially now, I think last year I had much less hope about football than I'd had for the previous kind of 4 or 5 seasons, and I don't think I was the only one. I'm sure that was reflected inside the ground as well. So now, you know, given what we've been doing in the last few games, I'm much more optimistic, and I think it would be a lot noisier.
When you say last year, are you talking Pochettino period, or are you talking the translator period?
Both, really.
Yeah, there was a sort of year of both, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I see it similar as James, because I feel like our support's very close to the team. We're an extension of the team. And when you're having upheaval in the team and uncertainty, even the players are uncertain, they don't gel. It's the same thing for the crowd. We don't gel. We're nervous, we're anxious all the time, and it's hard to get things going when you're in that mood. It's almost like you're not in form as well. So
I don't feel like we've
I hear it.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say I don't know if we've had much of a chat since the stadium was well established, let's say. But I mean, there was a period, and I guess it's coloured by the kind of football that we've mostly been getting during that period. But is it working? The way that the club have arranged fans, tried to coordinate fans, is there some sense that there's a core of singing in the sort of new Shelf? Is there a wall of sound that we were promised? The acoustic?
Yeah, well, from having been in there, I did feel as if it didn't feel quiet, especially in games when there was something on, you know. I've got a dreadful memory for specifics, but certainly there were games I've been to where there's a lot of noise. It wasn't like Wembley where you could have 100 people around you singing and you'd have no idea if anybody else in the stadium was singing at all, that was my experience of that. That was horrible. But you get that a bit in any stadium, but I think it's much more of a reflection. Yeah, I mean, it does go quiet, absolutely, and but yeah. Anyway, I think I don't feel personally as if it's significantly different from the old White Hart Lane. It doesn't feel and you know, I'm sure people who are like proper season ticket holders might disagree, but from my point of view, I certainly remember going to games before where things, you know, there were dips. Things definitely got quiet at points, and that still happens. Yeah, so it's not like absolutely. I can imagine the Dortmunds. I mean, I remember I remember some of the European games where people do sing for a long time, don't they? And having that constant, whatever it is, so having something that you can always sing, it doesn't matter what's going on. I think we don't have one of those songs really. It'd be good to have one, but
I can heartily recommend anything Cholo or Ole Ole or anything like that.
I don't think I'd want Spurs fans singing Ole 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 for 90 minutes. That might kill me.
I'm quite happy with Spurs, right? It's pretty regular, right? I mean, it's what I sing with my kids when we're watching Spurs games. Why not just go around and round and round, you know?
Well, my son's first full sentence was "Come on, you Spurs." So you know, I'm like, Good lad. Good boy.
So, well, any parting comments with getting fans in the stadium? We might be touching on it, speaking on, but if we
I want to say that I'm very far away, and it might be an offshoot from this discussion, but the social media team at Spurs has really stepped up. I feel closer being really far away now. A lot more interviews, a lot more insights than I've ever been. I only get to a game a year probably from here, but I feel more connected now. And even though the lockdown, they've really stepped up as if they've seen the opportunity, or maybe COVID's forced this, but they've done really well to bring everybody in. And I could see it in the local supporter groups. They're still getting more numbers in, and it's growing. And it's not just United, Liverpool anymore. It's lots more Spurs people coming out of the woodwork, and you feel more connected to the club. So it's not being at the stadium, but I can say there's a definite upward curve there.
I think there are two things. I think the club seem to have definitely upped the game on the social media. I think they probably brought in someone with a really good sense of humor, because like the Doherty, however you say it, thing with the deleting the old tweets, that was brilliant. But the other thing, I actually think that having no fans at the stadiums has probably helped in a way, because at the moment all you've got is a loop soundtrack. You don't even have that in the stadium. You've got people shouting, so there's no pressure from the fans on the translator. Whereas I think if you'd gone back a couple of months and the football that was being played, that Spurs fans definitely would have been getting on his back. And I think there's not been that pressure there, and he's been able to mold the team a little bit and have that free reign. So I think that's probably worked in his favour.
So what you're saying is you think he's orchestrated this entire thing?
Well, I wouldn't put it past him. He's a sour bastard, isn't he?
It's just Mourinho chest.
But I think it's also a learning for us, in terms of patience. And sometimes you've got to give somebody time to execute their vision. There's a lot of moving pieces.
We're Spurs fans. We don't give people time. Don't be silly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a lesson.
But I think James is absolutely right that most of the fans and the team was pretty disillusioned last season, and I think the new start of a new season and having what did he say in the Amazon Prime thing? His name is Jose or not something.
Jose.
Yeah, Jose. But Mourinho, basically having a fresh go and fresh start in a new season. This is, I think, it's only the second time he's taken over a team in mid-season. So this is his first preparation.
First time it's happened.
It's the first time.
Yeah.
He said,
wow.
I think even when he started with Pacos Ferreira, he came in at the start of the season.
Wow. I'm going to Google it.
I must say, I find him a lot more affable than I expected him to be. He seems, maybe it's the PR exercise, but he seems like a decent guy. Yes, he has his sour moments, and you can't read him, but he seems like a good bloke.
I still don't like him. I still see him as Mr. Chelsea, but I'm starting to warm to him.
That's what I mean. We've been pushed
We're still
that way,
Sub-Zero, but it's warming.
Yeah, I mean the result.
Summer for you, Andreas.
If we keep playing the way we're playing right now, if we're banging in 5-6 goals a game, okay, around, that's fine.
If we absolutely stuff West Ham, we'll have a lot more fans. Let's put it that way. So,
you remember on the Common New Spurs forum where Adebayor had his yedometer? Someone would somebody make how many scores, goals did he score against Spurs, and how many has he now scored? And basically measuring his. I think we should come up with something like that for Mourinho. Maybe it's just silverware.
I'm starting to see that. I mean, I take what Adish is saying on board, that he seems a lot nicer than we thought. I think the Amazon documentary stuff is a bit of an act. He's quite a clever guy, but I don't have a problem with clever. If he knows that to be a winner, he has to take people with him and win people over. and that's what he needs to do, then fine. I think maybe one of the problems is he got quite bitter at times at Chelsea and at Man U. And if he starts
Man U,
getting bitter
certainly.
again, if he starts getting bitter again at Spurs, then things could go badly quite quickly. But
Must help having
sorry.
Must help having a relaxed and forgiving boss, I imagine.
Well, I mean, people keep saying it. He's a winner, and I guess this is. But sometimes if things aren't going badly, he seems to lash out a little bit. Physios and the rest. But I mean, I'm starting to sense. I don't know. One of the major problems I had with him personally, and I had really serious concerns. I'm not so much bothered about the history, but the type of football that he was trying to play at times was really quite poor. And quite hopeless, quite disheartening, because sure, there were many problems going in, but he wasn't really trying to open teams up. He was trying to sit back and then failing at doing that. And it was, at least if you're playing the front foot, you might make use of your attackers. But for a while, we were playing on the back foot and not opening teams up, not hitting them on the break. And it was quite worrying. I mean, so I guess we could say that he needed different players. That's starting to happen now.
I mean, he wasn't trying to win in style. He was actually waiting for the other team to die of boredom.
Yeah, for a while it seemed as though the other team had to score first before we'd even get going.
Yeah, it seemed that way for a very long time.
He has been talking about pressing, right? And he was talking about in the Amazon documentary a bit again, if we take that seriously. And maybe his philosophy is changing a little bit, because it's really not his style to press, in my opinion. It's always been about the transitions, right? Sit back and hit people on the break. So
it's always been two banks of four. It's always been two banks of four with Mourinho, and now he can't do it at Spurs because he hasn't got those players. So,
yeah, but he's got the powerful players that he always likes. If you look back, the Essiens and the Makilelis and the Drogbas.
Oh yeah, the big, strong six-footers.
He's got that now. He's got Ndombele, he's got Kane, he's got Sanchez and Dyer. You can see that he's holding that team around there.
He's got Bale.
A monster. Yeah. I stood next to Bale once, and it was frightening. He's got thighs for calves. and I'm about 6 foot, and I look puny next to him. But he came here for a preseason with Spurs, and they did a really. It was just about 100 of us supporters in the stadium, and they did a race for us. It was Lennon, Walker, and Bell over 400 meters, and it was the most fascinating thing because Lennon was streets ahead at 50 meters, and then from 50 to about maybe 120 meters was Kyle Walker, and 120 to 400 was just Bale. Unbelievable stamina, same speed throughout, and he just ate up the ground. And the other two gave up before the 400 meters was up, and he just kept going. He's just phenomenal. If we see anything like that, Gareth Bale, it's good times ahead, I think.
Yeah, and I think that if you look at Bale, and I think one of the problems that Mourinho's had is that he absolutely desperately needed both Kane and Son to be fit. Without those two, Kane to play the balls, Son to make the run, and sometimes Kane to come steaming through as well late on. Like without both of those, we were basically, we had no attack.
Stuffed.
But then put Bale into the equation now. Reguilon looks a little bit handy as well on the pace. So things are looking. Yeah. I mean, we desperately needed pace in the team to go.
We're not one-paced anymore, and I think that's the big thing. We always seem to lack that X factor without Sonny or Kane on form, and now there's other people that can do it. So yeah, I'm excited. Very excited.
Nightmare to defend against, weren't they? It's like you think the opposing manager trying to defend against a Bale, Son and Harry Kane kind of front three is just sort of work. As you say, it's like if you've got Son and Kane, then yeah, you can sort of maybe take them out of the game. But I'll take three people out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, sorry for coming in here. Like, I didn't know if my mic was working or not, but with Bale and Kane and Son, they're all players you need to double mark. They all need to have two players on them to close them down. You can't just mark Bale with one player, and the same with Kane. And they can take a step and shoot from distance, all of them, and they have so many aspects to the games that they can we're going to be a dangerous outset. Like,
Do you think you're going to see more from Lo Celso? Because if you have to double mark any of those players, you're going to get a lot more attacking midfield space. So you're probably going to see a little bit more of Lo Celso in the final third, or in Dembele, or whoever's playing.
Yeah, I reckon we're going to see more like from our attacking midfielders as well, because it's going to open up a lot of options for the attacking midfielders to play the balls in for all the three attackers if they play together. If like that's my only concern with Bale is that Mourinho is going to have like a hard-working attacker in there as well, like Lamela or someone like that, and a Lucas, and not play the three of them. I don't know. We all want to see like Bale, Kane, Son, Lo Celso, and Dembele, but is it gonna be too much flair and not enough hard working?
I'd rather have a Lamella than a Lucas. I tell you, bloody hell, that guy does my head in.
Well, he's badly out of form, right? I mean, or he's very
he's a 1 in 7 player.
Yeah.
It's like people say, he's a 1 in 2, 1 in 3 player. Lucas is statistically proven to have an effect on a game 1 in 7 games, and if an assist or a goal 1 in 7 games. I mean, it was bloody nuts. Bloody Toby Alderweireld came on late on in one game earlier in the season. He went past more players in 15 minutes than Lucas Moura did in the entire game. What the bloody hell is wrong with this picture?
His GPS is broken. It keeps leading him down to dead ends.
There was that goal. I was watching it again. That spectacular goal where Ndombele. Maybe we should talk about it in a bit, actually, because I think it's important. That double turn under pressure that he basically brutalised a couple of Southampton. Spectacular.
Yeah.
But if you watch off the ball, I was looking at that again the other day. The way that Son was basically in line with him, and he just absolutely took off like a rocket. And Lucas was ahead of him, slightly out of shot, but on the edge of shot, and he barely moved by comparison. I mean, he's just not that play. He's not explosive, right? He's not going to find spaces by blowing past players like Son. And I don't know. I mean, Mourinho likes him as a battler, but I mean, but going back to Benjamin's question, to me, I mean, part of the question is if we don't play all three at once, I think the key is we just need at least two of those players, right? Something to scare players, and we can have a little bit of rotation. I don't think that's necessarily a problem, and it worked fine for us in the last few games. I don't think we didn't necessarily need Bale to play in those games, clearly, because we annihilated teams anyway. But we need to be able to let Son have a break. Oh, James is heading off.
Yep.
James is off.
I'll go.
Bye, James.
Great.
Cheers,
James. See you later.
We should be rounding up as well. But with Kane and Bale in the team, surely we're not going to be able to see all three of them playing at the same time.
Oh yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes.
Why not? Just drop Lamella. Drop Lamella, drop Lucas. Play Sonny, Kane, Bale up front.
Yeah. And you play with that for 45 minutes before one of their ankles or knees or thighs goes.
I didn't realise David Weeks had joined the group. Come on.
but I'm just saying that Bale have had a bit of injuries in the past, so hopefully our medical staff is up to the task.
I'll tell you what, Andreas, I've got to hope. Just looking at how the translator managed this 11 games in. How many ever games in 11 days or whatever. It was fantastic. That gives me hope to say that he's going to manage the boys properly. Because I don't think I've ever seen a Spurs manager manage his squad that well through that period like that.
I'm much more critical, I'm afraid. I wasn't. I thought he was playing with fire. I thought he took he rolled the dice and got away with it.
A little bit of that with the Chelsea game, certainly.
Yeah, the means justify the end.
I'll be honest, I do not like the translator at all. I don't think I'm ever going to be a fan of him, whatever he does. So there's always going to be that memory in my mind of his time at Manchester United, his time at Chelsea, his time at Inter. He was a horrible boss at Inter. But you got to look at him and say he did a really good job. I mean, we've played one bad game this year, I think. one really, really bad game, and that was Everton. This season. That Everton game was horrible. It was a horrible game to watch. And you start the season like that and you go like, oh, am I going to get a season that's just more of that? I'm not sure I can live with it, you know? But then we had the Newcastle game where we destroyed Newcastle. We killed them. And I don't know. There's no way. They didn't have a shot on target until the 94th minute when it was given to them. You know.
I felt worse about the Newcastle game than the Everton game, just because we should have won. You know, the Everton game, it was poor. I expected us, the way we played, not to get anything. But the Newcastle game
was promising, though.
kick in the
It was
gut.
promising against Newcastle because you just knew that we were going to get results playing like that. Whereas Everton, it was very depressing because it looked a lot like some of the worst of the previous season. Yeah. And I honestly thought that he was living on borrowed time at that point, which sounds ridiculous looking back on it. Look, I mean, you know, that week where, when I say he was rolling the dice, I felt that Kane was going to pull up. I mean, I thought Kane was being overused, and I was terrified. You know, Man U, obviously we could enjoy it, but I was convinced that he was going to break against Man U.
Sonny was my concern. He went off with a hamstring injury. And then he comes back and he played 90 minutes. You're like, what the? Get him off. We're 5 goals up. Like, get the guy off. Why are we still playing on the pitch?
Yeah, I think if there's a criticism, I mean, personally, I'm reasonably open-minded about Mourinho. I don't know about the translator. This translator name feels like he's being set up for a fall a little bit, but anyway. But Mourinho, I'll call him, or JM, he's doesn't like to rotate. He doesn't. He's mostly quite reluctant, especially with his best players. He doesn't take it easy on them. He rides them pretty hard. I don't know. It seems kind of risky. And
yeah, Pochettino did that though, didn't he? And it didn't really work out too well for him towards the end of the season. So there's a concern for that.
Interesting to see how many games Liverpool played with Salah and Mane and Firmino, because it's hard to remember them not playing with them.
I think pretty maybe much all the way through last season, they were pretty much fit for all the games.
Which is unbelievable itself.
Yeah, but we had a very special week though, right? It was ridiculous. I mean, you know, and Shaw playing 3 games out of 4 in 7 days plus 1 hour. You know, I mean, Kane didn't play 4 games, obviously he played 3, but he played an awful lot of those games in a short space of time. Hopefully, well, we're through that now. So I guess that's the good news. Europa's going to give us a lot of games, but the Europa League games in the league, he must rotate for that. He shouldn't need to go full guns blazing for all those games.
Vinicius should get some games, shouldn't he? We can't rely on Kane for every single game. So
he looks like a big boy. He looks like he can handle the rough stuff.
He's only 6'2". He's a little boy. He's fine.
He looks like a rugby centre.
So this we could have gone on to discuss the international and Gareth Southgate's decision on playing Harry Kane as much as he did. But I think the only thing we're going to say about the international is England 0, Denmark 1.
I don't think anyone wants to talk about the Denmark.
We keep about Denmark.
So,
and suddenly we're out of time.
that is exactly what I was about to say. If we want to stop on the hour, that's actually now. But we just want to get a few words in on the West Ham game.
Sure.
I'm actually for once, I think it's been a year since I'm actually excited to watch the Spurs game. I've been watching them dutifully, but not excitedly. That's the disillusion thing we talked about earlier. But I'm actually kind of excited and ready to be let down on Sunday.
There's the Spurs fan.
I was waiting. That's it, Andreas. It's the same way that I feel that you have this optimism, but deep down in the pit of your stomach, you're expecting a hard fall from grace. It's there. It's us.
Just Spurs.
Yeah. We're going to see Bale. We're going to see Bale. The anticipated.
I reckon so. Yeah.
Bench. Surely he's going to be off the bench.
Yeah, he's 75th minute. That's my guess.
Yeah.
It'll be good to see. It'll be good to see.
I will probably be emotional.
Me too.
I didn't think there was, in previous transfer windows, I thought there was no chance of Bale coming back because his agent was saying he's happy in Italy, he's happy in Spain, he's not going anywhere, he's happy in Spain, he's not going anywhere. He just kept on saying that, and suddenly he turned around and he went, yeah, he might be moving this time. I was like, bloody hell, it's happening, everybody. It's happening, everybody.
And even mentioning Spurs, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. It was
He's
fantastic.
not that old.
That was
and
quite a
the
few
way
weeks.
Wade was announced was amazing. The little home on the website with the numbers, and it was just so awesome.
The Reguillon, that was another social media.
Hey, mi amigo.
Brilliant.
It's your
I was
turn.
convinced that it would all go badly, right? It would blow up, and it just wouldn't happen. And then Reguillon says, "What was it? Over to now. It's your turn, my friend." It's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, this is actually going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
Keep
going to happen.
reading that Bale has really impressed in training, and the question is, how much has he impressed? Has he impressed enough to be in the starting position?
Well, he's really impressed against the players that were still at the club because the rest were on
Yeah,
international
yeah, I
duty.
mean,
So
but-
he's impressed playing up against alongside
Lucas.
So what can you say about that?
Yeah, but I mean, it's the thing is though, if we put Bale on after like 60 minutes and he gets injured after 15 minutes, then you have to take him off again. If he gets a
The
starting,
thing is,
yeah,
the only thing Bale had to do in training was to have the same work rate as Lucas. All he had to do was match Lucas's work rate. That was his target, and that's it. So I'm excited.
we'll see though.
So,
No, I'm excited. I am excited about this game. I think we're going to do them. It's going to be a really interesting, exciting game. I'm not been impressed by West Ham for much of the season so far. They've had a couple of good results. Most of the time when Moyes has been out, with COVID, but now he's back. He'll be back on the sidelines and he'll be there to undo any good work that's been done by anyone else. So I think we're going to probably win this one by 4. That's my guess.
Wow.
Do we have any?
They got a good
injuries,
result against Leicester. Just Dyer. I think Dyer's got a hammy, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that'll help.
yeah.
agree.
So, Matt, will you make a prediction? Are you as confident as 4-0 or a 4-goal win?
It's very difficult to say, but I'm gonna be a bit cagey, and I'm gonna go with 5-1 to Spurs.
Just 5-1.
A little bit cagey. Yeah.
I have a 4-1 result in mind. 4-1 for us. So
I'm going to be really bold and say we're going to get a clean sheet.
So Dyer's definitely not playing.
I think Toby will come in and make a difference, and
Yeah.
Does it make me a real Spurs fan that I actually want to take back my 5-1 because I feel like I've tempted to? No.
I would probably never go for more than 2-1. To be fair, I think we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle for an hour at least, and because they're going to come. That's their final of the season. They want to beat us, and they want to beat us every single time. So we're going to fight for it, and I think it's going to be a 0-0 until the 60th minute, where they score, and then they start to get a bit cocky, and we score, and then we put one in by Bale in the 80th minute.
I know what you're saying, Andreas. I know what you're saying, but give me the name of one West Ham player who would walk into the Spurs side.
I don't think I can name a.
There you go. So
And the translator is a great manager, right? Right, Stu?
No, the translator is not a great manager.
He's a better manager than his opposite number.
He's a better manager than his opposite number, but that is a very low bar. So
Kane is fit, right? Because there were some scares for England, but he is actually fit, is he not?
He played last night, all 90 minutes.
Kind of. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, he was on the pitch.
That could be said about all 11 England players.
No, not Maguire.
Actually, Maguire, he went off.
Yeah. Maguire didn't make it that long.
That was a man who wanted to go to the showers early, wasn't there? I mean, he wanted
Again.
to get sent off earlier in the game too.
I mean, he had a way better game yesterday than he did in against us, because he was only shit for 30 minutes yesterday.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true. But Connor Cody looks promising, and Calvin Phillips looks really promising. I mean, it's early days for them, but that's something to hold on to.
What was the name of that right back again? I can't remember. Is it
Reece James?
Reece James. He was putting in these crosses time and time again, and it was a bit weird, wasn't it? Because Kane seemed to be saying, "Right, next time I'll get on one of those," and he just wasn't. Like, he wasn't on the back line at all.
Yeah, but he won't be able to play in the next game because he got sent off after the final whistle.
Yeah.
Well done.
Shit.
Yeah.
But when Matt says the right back, I'm wondering which one. There were 3. There were 3 right backs on the field.
The one who was playing right back. Yeah. No, it's
They
very-
switched for a while. They were switching. England was switching right backs. Walker and Reach were taking turns to play left back and right back. It was the weirdest thing ever.
You know,
see that.
Trippier would have been in there, but he was up on his gambling charge. So
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll. My result is not the one to come to fruition. I hope some of the 4 or 5 or 6 goals will be the end result. So I wish you a very good game on Sunday and stay safe.
come on, you Spurs.
Thank you.
Come
very
on,
much,
you Spurs.
everyone.
Thanks, guys.
And let's do this again.
Thanks,
It was fun. Nice meeting you all.
Yeah,
Well,
nice meeting you guys.
Likewise.
Yes.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Bye.